Josh had a fantastic column that is on offthehooksports.com as we kind of start this show off, not intentionally, but Mike's saying that Tennessee has a shot. And now Josh is going to tell you ways that Tennessee can beat Georgia. So I think we're all three on the same boat that Georgia is the favorite, and rightly so, and will probably win. But that is why they play the game. So let's go ahead and get to 4 downs. And Josh, I don't want to include your top one in 4 downs because I think that was probably your easiest one, and it was your first one. Tennessee's at home when we talk about 5 reasons to believe Tennessee can beat Georgia this week. So let's go ahead and get to 4 downs, and it's brought to you by our friends at Tennessee Cider Company.
4 downs, 4 questions, 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Okay, so at home, we're chalking that up to one that makes a lot of sense and that we knew. But first down's still crazy to me, and that is this point spread. Before we get to that and Josh's thoughts, what should we do, Cooper?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Cooper. I appreciate that. And what down is it?
Coop here. First down.
Thanks, Coop. Odds makers say Tennessee has a shot. Is this a head scratcher of a line for you, 9.5 to 10? Because if I put this number early in the week and nobody gave me any input, Josh, I would have had it at 14.5 to 16.5.
No, I thought that the line would be about where it was before the Missouri game, and I know the result of the Mizzou game, but I didn't expect it to affect things very much, even with Georgia blowing out Ole Miss. Now, if I thought it was 9.5 to 10.5 going in before the actual line came out, you could have talked me into, okay, they might add a couple of points after the way last Saturday went, but one game to the next, when a team has kind of established what it is, I don't think is going to change how odds makers view it. Now, you might look at it and say, okay, well, then they screwed up. I'm going to go heavy on Georgia. You might have that thought, but they're telling you something about what Tennessee is or what it's capable of. The line does not tell you what will happen. They, of course, are not going to hit it every time. It's going to go one way or the other. But I think the line tells us that Tennessee is capable of more than it showed against Missouri.
There you go, Caleb. What do you got? Oh, second down. No, I'll get Caleb to ask second down. Sorry, I got befuddled. It was having Griffith on.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Second down. So, Caleb, second down for our Josh Ward is Tennessee's defensive line. Caleb, let me start with you. The defensive line, how much confidence do you have? And then Josh, take over, sir.
Wait, I thought we talked about the Vegas line. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So Tennessee's defensive line, Josh, obviously last week it was an issue, Tennessee's defensive line, when they played Missouri. So I would agree with you going into this week that the defensive line should be why they might beat Georgia, but I want you to address it. Are there concerns about Missouri, or do you think what I think, and I think you're on my side on this because you mentioned them, which is I don't think last week's issues were because of the defensive line. I think it was because of the linebackers, and that we just found out for as hard as he plays, Elijah Herring is not equipped to play middle linebacker against certain teams.
Josh, Elijah Herring is very good at chasing players.
He had to do it a lot. Look, everybody stunk against Missouri. So linebacker play was as bad as it's been all season, and that is a concern going into this game. The defensive line, I kind of included the pressure they want to apply to Carson Beck. Don't make things easy for him, but it begins probably with stopping the run. Georgia has outrushed its SEC opponents in 5 out of the 7 games. Missouri was one of the teams, by the way, 2 weeks ago that outrushed Georgia. But if Tennessee's defensive line can be closer to what it was earlier in the season, before the Missouri game, when we were talking about Tennessee ranking first in the league in rush defense, does Tennessee have the best rush defense in the SEC? I would say no. The stats now say no. But that doesn't mean that they should be as bad as they were last week. If there's kind of a home element to all of these topics we bring up, Tennessee can be better in these areas of importance playing at Neyland Stadium as opposed to going away from home. But if Tennessee can slow down Georgia's rushing attack and then, of course, run the ball on its own side on offense, then it has a shot. But if we were to look at the position groups over the course of this season and say which group has been the best unit, the most consistent overall this season, we're probably going to point to the defensive line pretty early in that conversation. So when you're going up against Georgia, which has an offensive line that's one of the best in the nation and a team that's capable of doing all that it can, what do you point to try to equalize as much as you can Tennessee's defensive line?
Did anybody feel like Elijah Herring real quick? Josh, I know you've been to a pro day with me. Caleb, I don't know if you've been to a pro day, but do you remember the drill where you hold the ball and you would go left, right, and you're supposed to shimmy left and right, sidestep left and right, and then you would point one way, the ball one way, and you're supposed to flip your hips and go. It felt like Elijah Herring was just running that drill against the run, not the pass, but just continually running that drill. It felt like he was running all over the field. Josh, not to get too sidetracked.
Yeah, he did. Look, Missouri outcoached Tennessee last week, and Tennessee's players were punished for it, I'd say, as the game went along. And Tennessee didn't do anything to fix what Missouri was able to do against the Vols, and it happened for 4 quarters. So, yeah, Elijah Herring, I think, showed that he's not there as an all-SEC level player, and he can be exposed if the other team has a really good plan, and Missouri had a really good plan. Missouri can take advantage of teams, and they took advantage of Tennessee. That's coaching staff and players last week.
And I was told by somebody that Missouri completely outcoached Tennessee on the defensive side from the get. They came out with a totally different look that Tennessee never adjusted to. And that I just heard that yesterday. I was told that yesterday by a source inside
Yeah,
the
it's
program.
both sides of the ball. Yeah, I'm not just talking about Tim Banks' side. It's both sides.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as Missouri on the defensive side, sure, you can come out with something new, but that doesn't mean you can't adjust, is what the person told me.
Before we get, I just want to ask you guys real quick, because we're going to get to this segment later, so I don't want to talk about it now, but do you think that had something to do with Eli Drinkwitz had a very, very, very committed mission to beat Josh Heupel in Tennessee this year?
Yes.
So he threw out everything he had for that game?
Yes. I think he sat on a different defense the whole year long.
Just to win this game.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, that game meant a lot to Missouri. There's no doubt about it. I did point out a moment ago, Missouri outrushed Georgia a couple weeks ago. Let's see what happens this week, obviously. But Missouri last year was much more competitive with Georgia than Tennessee was. And then this year, played with Georgia for 4 quarters. Let's see if Tennessee can. But Missouri at this point, it has a chance to finish out strong and have people talk about them in the offseason. Kind of like Tennessee was talked about last offseason. If Missouri can finish 10-2 and they look really good against Florida and Arkansas, people will be asking, hey, does Mizzou have something going there? Because they've recruited pretty well. And if they have that kind of record and they blew out Tennessee, Florida has questions. Not just about Tennessee. Florida has questions. South Carolina has plenty of questions. There will be some talk of, hey, let's watch for Mizzou, maybe not to catch Georgia, but to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the division. And I know the division's going away, but just in terms of that half of the league and the discussion it gets.
Yep. 5 reasons that are online of why Tennessee can beat Georgia, despite what a lot of people believe are going to be a one-sided game. Will be a one-sided game. Coop, what down?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
It's brought to you in part by Tennessee Cider Company, the original hard cider of the Smoky Mountains. Use the promo code HAT, that's HAT, to receive free swag during your order, available most anywhere in the United States of America. TNCiderCompany.com, or it's right below TNCiderCompany.com. The Auburn game, another reason that Tennessee fans should believe that the Vols have a chance. Why the Auburn game, where Georgia was like,
Yeah, so this would be another element of home versus road for Georgia. Georgia just hasn't played many true road games. They played in Jacksonville against Florida. They played at Vanderbilt, which is not an SEC caliber team, and then Auburn. Well, Auburn was tied with Georgia midway through the 4th quarter. Auburn had a second-half lead against Georgia. Peyton Thorne at quarterback was able to run with success, extend drives, frustrate Georgia's defense, and make it a game for 4 quarters. Tennessee's roster doesn't take a back seat to Auburn. And when we've seen Joe Milton at his best, I'm not saying playing at an incredibly high level in the SEC, but Joe Milton at his best, which I think has helped Tennessee's offense be at its best this season, is when he's run the football, when that running element has played an important part of what Tennessee's doing. Peyton Thorne did not have success through the air against Georgia's defense that day, but he ran for a little more than 90 yards in that game. If Joe Milton can find rushing success and Tennessee's able to extend drives at home and make it a game in the middle part where Georgia starts to kind of question things and Tennessee builds some confidence. We talk about Tennessee needing a fast start a lot of the time. Opponents have had fast starts against Georgia. It's just the Bulldogs have immediately responded, and a lot of times they've knocked people out pretty quickly. They did not at Auburn. Can Tennessee at home get some early momentum and carry that over into the second half?
All right, 4th down and take it away. Coop and Caleb, which feels like that should be like a late 70s, early 80s sitcom.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Coop and Caleb, 7:30 Tuesdays, right after WKRP in Cincinnati. Caleb?
So, Josh, 4th down, we want to talk about where Georgia's headspace is, and that actually has a lot to do with them on the road in past couple of years. They've played down to a lot of opponents the last 2 weeks, and I love what your take on that. We don't know where they're at. My thought is the reason they blew out Ole Miss last week was because they put everything into that game during the week of practice, knowing they could clinch the East. Do you think there's a very good chance they took this week of practice off, basically, and are phoning it in?
I think there's a good chance they started the week off slow, and I find some of Kirby's comments on Tuesday after practice to be believable that they weren't at their best. I also know this, and I noted in the column, Kirby is as good as it gets. He learned from Nick Saban and has mastered the method of getting his team's attention. So at the end of this part of the discussion, if you're watching, if you're listening to us, or if you read the column and you come away with it saying, nope, don't buy it. I think Georgia's going to come in fired up, motivated to kick some butt again. Totally get it because they've been able to do it so many times. And that's why Kirby, I think, started off the week challenging his team, calling them out because he knows Tennessee is capable of having success. He knows last year in Neyland Stadium, different team, but in Neyland Stadium, Tennessee beat Alabama and Bryce Young with all the talent that Alabama had. And Kirby knows that his players know they had an easy time against Tennessee last year and that Tennessee had a tough time last week against Missouri. And it's easy in Knoxville and in Athens to look at this and say, oh, cakewalk for Georgia. And in the end, maybe it will be. 5 reasons to believe will include needing to believe that Georgia will come out of the gate slow, that they're not totally dialed in. Because if Georgia is totally focused, if Georgia comes in prepared to play its best football and does, Tennessee cannot match it. Tennessee needs help from Georgia and then needs to take advantage of it. But if that is an issue for Georgia, that allows Tennessee a shot to pull off the upset if Georgia is not totally dialed in this week.
No, and I think Tennessee, through a source within the program, maybe wasn't as dialed in because they felt confident that Missouri was just a team that they were going to beat.